Week 6 is in the books. Week 7 is here. Pete Nova with the Face Off Sports Network. I am back today to talk about my defensive streamers plus rankings to help you win your fantasy football matchups. A recap from last week: the Raiders tied for first in fantasy points for defenses. That was our number one streamer on the week. They took on the Tennessee Titans. They took care of business, and we were correct. They came out pissed off like we expected at home. Now, that brings us 5 out of 6 weeks this year so far. A defense has finished inside the top three. And that was 25% owned or less that we provided as a streamer. We're looking to keep things going so far. But in addition, we've also had two defenses every single week so far finish inside the top 9. That was a defensive streamer as well. Let's turn the page now and look ahead at week number 7. And the first defense that I'm taking a look at is the Cleveland Browns, who just finished inside the threshold for me at 25% owned or less. They're actually 24.8% owned over on Sleeper, and they take on the Miami Dolphins in this matchup. Now, we do get a home team, and we also get a low point total here. 19.5 is the team total. That is tied for 6th lowest on the week. And this Cleveland Browns defense came up short last week against the Steelers, but their run defense has been phenomenal. And if there's one thing that worries me, it's Devon A-Chain and the run game for the Dolphins. But that is a strength for this Cleveland Browns defense. And when looking at the Dolphins offense, I think they're still trying to figure things out with Tyreek Hill missing. 5 sacks over the last 2 games is what they have allowed. Also, 3 interceptions from Tua last week against the Chargers. I think this Browns defense is better than the Chargers as a unit. And you look at this Dolphins team, their offense is getting by, not by talent, but they're getting by just having a good scheme, right? Mike McDaniels has taken a lot of heat so far, and rightfully so. They've been a mess, but I also think if you put an average replacement level head coach with this current roster, they wouldn't really be getting much better out of what's constructed. He's actually giving them, you know, I personally think more with less on this offense. It's not a very talented offense, in my opinion. And when you look at them, 17th in EPA over the last 2 weeks since Hill has been gone. So kind of middle of the pack. 26 when it comes to yards. 26th when it comes to yards per game this year with 289, which is not like the Miami offense. And I think this Browns team matches up well. Browns are 14th in pressure rate. Dolphins offense historically not good on the road, especially as the season starts to get later and later. And looking at the forecast, and a lot can happen from now until then, it is projected to rain in Cleveland for that game, and it's projected to be somewhere around the mid to low 60s, which does not bode well for that offense. We know how they perform in bad weather. It's a team that loves to play at home, but they seem to struggle to play on the road, especially in bad weather environments. And when you look at it, Tua throwing his coach under the bus and some of his teammates, it's just not really good vibes around there. Browns have bad vibes, but I think they know that they suck. And their defense is more talented, in my opinion, much more talented than Miami's offense. And when you look at the Browns from a defensive EPA standpoint, over the last 4 weeks, they rank 11th in EPA, and you'll see them there on the chart. So their defense has performed well. Maybe hasn't given us the big spike weeks every week like we have hoped for, but they have performed well. I think it's a good matchup for them. They're my number one streamer on the week. Moving on to number 2, and it's the Chicago Bears, and I'm super surprised to have Chicago on here. They take on the Saints. They are away. We get a low point total here, though, tied for 8th lowest team total at 20.5. And when I dug into this matchup, I think this is a really good floor play. I don't think the ceiling is extremely high, but the Miami offense provides a really, really solid floor, in my opinion. Their Saints offense right now is just having issues, right? 22nd when it comes to EPA, on offense over the last 4 weeks. And they're, third lowest in terms of touchdowns this year with 9. Saints offense is averaging less than 2 touchdowns a game so far. And while Spencer Rattler has looked better than expected, they've also just not really done a ton. They've had some okay games where, they've played, maybe a little bit higher to their competition with the Patriots and the Bills, but overall, this is still not a very good football team. And the Bears have played solid. Last note on the Saints is when it comes to their yardage, right? Ninth lowest yardage per game, sixth highest quarterback pressure percentage allowed. And so we'll see if Spencer Rattler can hold on to the football. Saints, uh, Saints offense is not giving huge spike weeks to opposing defenses in fantasy, but they've been giving us okay floors, solid floors. And I think this is another week for that. When you look at this Bears defense, in terms of the EPA, sixth over their last 3 games as well. And they've been good. I mean, the Bears defense, I have to give them credit. They have performed well. I'm sorry, they're sixth in EPA over the last 4 games. And just 3 sacks, forced 3 sacks and 3 turnovers against Jaden Daniels and that Commanders offense. 7 interceptions for the Bears over the last 3 games that they've played. Pretty surprising for a unit that I don't think is all that good, but they're playing up to the task. Dennis Allen has them playing well. They came out and they looked strong against, look, I get it. Jaden Daniels doesn't have Terry McLaurin, and that's a big loss, but this is still an offense that, even with Terry McLaurin missing, should be a top 15 unit. And, they came out on the road in that matchup and looked really, really good. And I'm expecting them to continue to play well and in this Saints matchup. Let's move on to my last pick. And yeah, it's the Carolina Panthers against the Jets, just 1% owned. And by the way, Chicago Bears 4% owned. I didn't mention that. But looking at this Panthers game here, this is high risk, high reward. If you're putting this Panthers team in, you're looking at it and saying, I am looking. Maybe you're projected to lose, and maybe it's a matchup that you don't feel that confident in because, again, high risk, high reward. You're playing against a Jets team right now, 8th lowest team total on the week, tied for 8th lowest, 20.5. Now we do get an away team, but we do get a low point total and a bad offense. Jets offense 27th when it comes to EPA over the last 4 weeks. Fourth most points allowed to opposing defenses in fantasy over the last 3 weeks, and fourth most allowed to opposing defenses in fantasy on the season, right? So we have a small sample size of 3 weeks. We have a full sample size of the season. Garrett Wilson is going to be out of this matchup as well. Justin Fields looked absolutely terrible last week. I feel pretty good about this. It's, again, high risk, high reward, but the reason I feel kind of, say risky is because this Panthers defense, it's not a surprise to anyone. It's not like this is a great defense, but bad offense, bad point total, missing one of their stars, not a lot of talent outside of Breece Hall on this offense. My only biggest concern is really Justin Fields being able to get outside of the pocket and make some big plays happen. But Jets are reeling after a throttling in London against the Denver Broncos. Most pressures allowed to their quarterback this year, the New York Jets, and they're tied for 6th lowest amount of touchdowns on the season. It's just been really, really bad and tough sledding for the Jets. Notes on the Panthers. Look, I think they're playing inspired football right now. They've rattled off some wins, right? They are, not in like looking at the tankathon, right now and checking out to see where their draft pick's going to be. Like, they're still in the hunt here. I'm not sitting here telling you the Panthers team is good, but Rico Dowdle has given them a little bit of life here, a little bit of toughness and edge. They've been leaning on that run game, controlling the football. And, I think that could be a possibility here as well for their offense. And in turn, keeping their defense off the field, which I think is super, super important. One thing to note, Panthers lowest pressure percentage generated on the year. So again, they haven't been a good defense either. You have the most pressures allowed by the Jets and the least pressures generated by the Panthers. Something's got to give here. 18th when it comes to touchdowns allowed. So not the worst in that regard. They've been stingy enough where they're middle of the pack on touchdowns allowed. So I like the Panthers here as a very interesting speculative play. Let's move over to my full defensive rankings now. Number one in tier number one, you have the Denver Broncos here. And I mean, it's hard not to like this Denver matchup going up against the New York Giants. Denver just had 9 sacks. This is the consensus number one defense. I'm not shying away from that. I like them. They're at home against the Giants too. So I like that matchup. Then I have the New England Patriots here at number 2. Again, not a huge surprise. Patriots taking on the Titans. That's a very, very a team that people are going to continue to target. My only concern a little bit is that they are on the road, and maybe it's a little bit of a jolt that they just fired their head coach. Sometimes you get like that 1 week bounce back from a team. So we'll see how that goes, but I still really, really like their play here. Then you have the Kansas City Chiefs here at number 3. They are home against the Las Vegas Raiders. And the tough thing is, look, this is a divisional matchup. Raiders offense has talent, but they're just kind of broken, right? The offensive line is in shambles. Geno Smith is kind of up and down. It wouldn't surprise me if the Raiders get up for this game, but ultimately still really, really like the Chiefs in this matchup. If you have them, you're playing them. And then we have the Seattle Seahawks. I am above consensus on the Seahawks. Seahawks versus Houston. They are at home in this matchup. They're generating a ton of pressure. I'm surprised consensus has the Seattle Seahawks here at number 7. I would have expected that to be higher, but nonetheless, I have them here at number 4. They've generated a ton of pressure. They're going to be taking on the Houston Texans, and Houston's had an extra week to prepare for this one. The good thing is that Seattle in this game is a Monday night game, so they do get an extra day to prepare as well. And if I know anything, I know that this Texans offensive line has issues keeping CJ Stroud clean, and the Seattle Seahawks defense has generated a ton of pressure this year. So I really, really like the matchup for Seattle. Let's move on to number 2, and I have the Vikings in tier 2 here at number 5. And the Vikings, I mean, I don't know, man. Like maybe I'm just crazy. Vikings, I am way ahead of consensus here against the Philadelphia Eagles. They're at home, and they're number 14th in consensus. They're number 5 for me. Um, Look, they're coming off of a bye. They're getting healthy. They've had issues staying healthy. They're taking on an Eagles team that Jalen Hurts has they've been able to generate pressure on Hurts this year. That offense is a little bit broken and beaten up. I could see where maybe I drop down the Vikings a little bit during the week, but I don't know, man. Like I just have a good feeling about this one. I get it. Hurts and them just lost, and maybe they come out pissed off with they also had some extra time to prepare here as well. But as long as I think the Vikings offense can sustain drives, I think this should be a good matchup for them. They don't turn the ball over a ton, the Eagles, but I think this could be a really good play. So I like the Vikings defense here. They've been able to generate points. And yeah, I then have the Rams here at number 6. I'm ahead of them on consensus. Consensus has them at 9. I have them at 6. They're going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville, that offense has played well. They also can give up points to opposing defenses. I like seeing the Rams here. This is a little bit sketchy only because it's a London game. And so you hope that they get up for this game, which could slide the Rams back slightly behind the Packers. But I don't anticipate me putting the Browns ahead of them. Maybe one spot. We'll see where the injury reports lie as the week progresses here. Then I have the Packers, and the Packers are 4th in consensus. I'm lower on them than consensus. EPA wise, the Packers defense the last 3 weeks has been at the bottom of the league. They are on fraud watch a little bit. Hopefully they can bounce back, but this is a team that just played against the Bengals. They did not generate pressure against one of the worst offensive lines in football. I still think they're a good play, but they are going on the road. Now, they are playing an Arizona offense that has looked bad. If Jacoby Brissett is the starter for this game, honestly, they might move up, they might move down. If Kyler is the starter for this game, they might move up. That's how I look at it. I have them at 7 because I'm expecting it to be Jacoby Brissett, but there's a possibility they tick up if Kyler Murray is the starting quarterback in this matchup. Then I had the Cleveland Browns here at number 8. Cleveland consensus has them at 6. I have them at 8. They take on the Miami Dolphins. We talked about Cleveland. No need to dig into that matchup. But these tiers are a little bit smaller, and there's a reason behind it. I don't think I think there's decent drop offs from some of these tiers. Tier 3 is an interesting cluster here. You have the Steelers, who consensus has them at 5. I have them at 9. They take on the Cincinnati Bengals, and with Joe Flacco, I think there's a world. So the biggest thing with the Steelers here is we have seen so many good defenses on short weeks, the last 2 weeks, burn us. We've seen the Rams, who I think are a better defense than the Steelers. We've seen the Eagles, who were injured a little bit, but they just got throttled by the Giants. These short weeks have not been kind to our defenses so far lately. And also, you're taking on a team that just added Joe Flacco, and Mike Tomlin knows Flacco, but Flacco knows Mike Tomlin. So, I think I think they're going to drop down a little bit. That's why I have them at 9. I know consensus has them higher. Not that they're a bad play, but I do get worried, man. We've gotten burned. Then I have the Colts, and I wanted to put the Colts even higher than this. I am way ahead of consensus on the Colts. The Colts are at 19. I have the Colts at 10 here. We're taking some risks this week. The Colts are taking on the Chargers, who, look, Kamani Vidal in that running game looked much better, but they took on the Miami Dolphins, who have an awful run defense. Awful, awful, awful run defense. And in this matchup here, I look at it, the Colts taking on a Chargers team, and, they are on the road in this one, so I don't love that. But the Chargers have been giving up points to opposing fantasy defenses over the last couple weeks. Herbert's been taking sacks. This Colts defense is pretty good. So that's just kind of how I look at it. I have them higher just because of that. I think they've been really, really solidifying themselves as a top 10 unit, in my opinion, this Colts defense over the last couple weeks of the season. Then I have the Chicago Bears here at 11. We talked about the Bears. They are my second streamer on the week. I like them here at 11. I have them ahead of the Philadelphia Eagles, and I'm not going to spend too much more time on the Bears, just because we've kind of already we kind of already talked about them. But I'm looking here at the Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears 15th on consensus. I have them at 11, so I'm much higher. The Eagles are the interesting one here, and Eagles are at 8th on consensus. I have them at 12. I need to see who's in and who's out for that matchup, right? The Eagles take on, the Minnesota Vikings, and Vikings have given up a lot of points to opposing defenses. But on the other side of that, they also coming off of a short week. Guys are getting healthy. Maybe they get some O-line back. I want to see where the O-line injury report is, and then I'll probably make some shifts. But Eagles likely not going to have Quinyon Mitchell. There's a very good chance. And that secondary is pretty tough outside of Cooper DeJean if Quinyon Mitchell is not playing. Jalen Carter didn't play last week either. And so I need to see the injury report for both teams to feel more confident to put the Eagles higher in my rankings. So I have them here at number 12. Moving on to tier 4, not a big tier. I have the Texans and I have the Panthers. Texans, I'd love to have higher. Texans also had some extra time to prepare for this one. They are traveling to the Seattle Seahawks. Consensus has them at 10. I have them at 13. Look, I like this Texans defense. I think they're a solid play. I think they're a very, very solid play. Seattle's offense has just been running really hot. But what I would say is they match up well. Seattle, the pass defense for the Texans are, a top 10 unit in EPA per dropback and success rate from a passing standpoint over the last few weeks. And so, that bodes well for the Texans. I think there's a world where I bump up the Texans higher. I'm still kind of on the fence there, but there's a chance they go up a little bit higher. So just keep that in mind. Then we talked about the Panthers here at 14, high risk, high reward. Don't need to spend too much time on that. Moving on to tier number 5, I have the Atlanta Falcons, and the Falcons I really wanted to have higher in this one too. I am way out on consensus here. Consensus has them at 22. I have them at 15. If you're noticing, there's a trend this week. I am taking chances. I have I spent so much time prepping for this one. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I hope I'm not wrong. But I look at it and I want the Falcons to be put higher because the 49ers have given up sacks and they've given up points to opposing defenses. They've turned the football over. Yes, Mac Jones has been better than people had hoped, and he's kept that ship afloat. But still, I think, with the injuries, I need to see what that report looks like. If George Kittle's back, if Brock Purdy's back, if Ricky Pearsall's back, yeah, I will probably drop down the Falcons a little bit in my rankings here. I'm operating as if some of those guys are missing. So I have them right here at 15 in the middle. I think it's a fine spot for them given how much the 49ers have given up to opposing defenses. Miami Dolphins here at number 16. I think they're a solid play here. They're at 11 on consensus against Cleveland. I just think that I didn't put the Dolphins higher because I just kind of felt like defense is not that great. They are traveling in this one. And again, as I said, bad weather or colder weather, Dolphins don't usually get up for those games as much. And ultimately, I wanted to have the Dolphins a little bit higher. We'll see what the injury reports that come out for that game, and maybe there's some slight adjustments and bumps up for them, especially with the Falcons. Like we just talked about, there's a world that they get bumped down and Dolphins go up ahead of them. But overall, Dolphins at 16, Jets at 17. They take on the Carolina Panthers. Panthers offense has been solid. Jets defense looked pretty good against Denver last week as well, especially against the run. And the Panthers have been able to run the football. So if the Jets defense can stop the run and make it 2 weeks in a row, we'll see. They are the home team in this one. So we'll see. I had them at 17. Then I have the Chargers here at 18. Consensus has them at 16 against the Colts. This Colts team is just not giving up much against opposing defenses. I mean, they've just been so good. And I don't think there's going to be much sacks, much pressure on Daniel Jones. I could be wrong, but I'm not expecting much. So I had them here at 18. Then I have the Lions at 19 and the Bucks at 20. If the Bucks were home, I would have flipped this against the Lions. The Bucks defense has been really good at generating pressure this year. There's a world where maybe they bump up ahead of the Chargers too, but I had them at 19 and 20. And then the last tier is really just the sad tier. If you got to start these defenses, I don't know. You're not feeling great. Jacksonville Jaguars, while they've been good against against some bad teams, I'm very low on consensus compared to them. Jaguars right now 12th in consensus. I have them at 21. They're missing their star middle linebacker is going to probably miss this game, and taking on a Rams team who I think is really good. It's a London game. We'll see how they travel for that one, but I don't know. I don't love the Jags. 49ers just lost Fred Warner. That's tough when you look at that. Giants are interesting. I think out of this tier, if I was going for upside, I might take a swing at the Giants just because Denver's offense has been pretty up and down, but they're just not giving up a lot of sacks and turnovers, Denver's offense. So it's tough there too. If you're starting any of these defenses, I get it. You might want to just go with the Jags because they've had a history of being really good defensively this year. And so, maybe just giving them some respect, but with the injuries, plus the offense they're playing, I don't love them. But that's going to do it for me, guys. As always, my updates will come out on Twitter, on our Discord. If you're in there, you should join if you're not already. And then I'll always try to post on the community for YouTube as well. I do want to say, if you guys did show some support, I know I'm going through a lot with my family right now. It's been a lot the last week and a half. Do very much appreciate the support that I have received from you guys. And as always, thank you so much for watching these videos. Make sure you like and subscribe. If you have questions, I'll do my best to answer them. Good luck with your matchups, and I'll see you guys next time.